Hakugei is the giant hybrid coaster in Nagashima Spa Land. Rocky Mountain Construction converted the park's White Cyclone wood coaster into this world-class experience of powerful ejector airtime in 3 inversions. I think this is the best coaster in all of Japan, and I will explain why in this review. Due to Japan's earthquake regulations, from 1950 to 1987, wooden structures taller than 42 feet or 13 meters were not permitted. This is why all of Japan's earliest roller coasters were made of steel. After this restriction was lifted, Japanese parks began erecting wood coasters. 6 in total were built, and 5 of those were designed by Intamin. White Cyclone opened at Nagashima Spa Land in 1994. This was the country's second wood coaster. More notably, it was the tallest, fastest, and longest wood coaster ever built in Japan. It was a statistical monster. It stood 139 feet, or 42 meters tall, hit speeds of 63 miles per hour, or 101 kilometers per hour, and had 5,577 feet, or 1,700 meters of track. Due to the aforementioned earthquake standards, this ride's wood support structure was dense. Picture the one on Ghost Rider at Knott's Berry Farm on an even larger ride. What made this one even more mesmerizing was the white paint scheme. Most of the Mega Woodies utilized natural wood. It was surreal seeing a white wood coaster on this scale. I never rode White Cyclone, but those who did say it was poorly paced and rough. This is why I was ecstatic when the park closed in early 2018 and hired Rocky Mountain Construction, or RMC, to renovate the coaster into a steel hybrid coaster. The ride reopened in 2019 as Hakugei. It is the only RMC hybrid in all of Asia, and it's among the company's largest coasters. Most of RMC's hybrid conversions are roughly the same height as their predecessors. Hakugei increased White Cyclone's height by 41 feet, as it stands 180 feet, or 55 meters tall. The only RMCs that grew more were Steel Vengeance at Cedar Point, by a slight margin, and Iron Gwazi at Busch Gardens Tampa, but that ride didn't even try to reuse the former's lift hill. That one had an entirely new lift structure, unlike most of the conversions. With Hakugei, you can still see the old lift buried in the support structure. Hakugei has a bit less length than its predecessor, which we've seen with half the conversions. Still, it is an extremely long ride, as it navigates 5,020 feet, or 1,530 meters of track. That makes it RMC's second longest coaster, just behind Steel Vengeance. I would argue it's the company's prettiest coaster though. The ride retains the beautiful white support structure of White Cyclone. This color scheme absolutely pops on a sunny day, especially since this coaster borders the Ibi River. It is especially stunning seeing this ride by air from the adjacent Ferris wheel. Hakugei translates to white whale or Moby Dick. So fittingly, the lead car is designed to look like a ship, and the operator booth has this adorable whale plushie there. However, there is no other theming. That's fine during the coaster itself, since it's a fast-paced and frenetic adventure that can stand on its own. That is not so swell in the queue though. It is a long series of switchbacks. They are covered at least, but there's nothing to see beyond this coaster's pre-lift section. And unfortunately, you may be waiting a while. This coaster has terrible capacity. Even on a quiet day, this queue can easily hit the half-hour mark. On a busy day, it can exceed an hour. If you visit on a weekday like me, the park typically uses just one train. I got excited midday when I saw them transfer on the second train, but immediately after doing that, they took the other train off. I believe 2 trains are more likely in a weekend, but the park will be busier, so that benefit is often cancelled out. 1 train ops on any large-scale coaster is painful, especially one as popular as this. Hakugei has a long cycle time too, as it takes roughly 3 minutes to complete each circuit. What makes it even more painful is the loading procedure. This coaster strictly loads front to back, no exceptions. Your seat is assigned by a grouper at the very end of the queue. Even if a row behind you is empty, you cannot sit there. Likewise, you cannot request a row or wait an extra cycle for a different row. At least on the day I visited, They waited for the prior train to return to the station and for those guests to leave the platform before even admitting the next group of riders into the station. This slowed down loading considerably. On top of that, absolutely nothing can ride with you. All your pockets must be empty. You cannot wear glasses even if they're secured by a strap. Everything goes in a complimentary locker. These thankfully are placed just before the final stretch of the queue, rather than on the load platform, so hypothetically, this should save time. However, the employee who wands you with a metal detector to verify your pockets are empty sometimes does this at the very end of the queue, when you're assigned the row, which makes the process of grouping the next train take longer than it should. In the afternoon when the ride got busier, they moved the metal detection check down by the lockers, which is way more efficient. Not only does this let the grouper assign rows without delay, but guests are right by the locker if they forget to store something. Once everyone has their row, the employees ask everyone again if they have emptied their pockets. Then, they lead a group stretching exercise. Yes, you heard that right. It is like middle school gym class all over again. This takes maybe an additional 20 to 30 seconds. Then, and only then, can you board the train. The restraint check itself takes about as long as other RMCs, which is slower than your average coaster, since the seatbelt and lap bars are checked on separate passes. But unlike the other RMCs, the employees make a third pass with a poster showing guests how to physically sit during the ride. This states to look forwards and cross your arms over the restraint. It is a really awkward position for your hands, but you must demonstrate this to the employee for them to send the train. They stop each row individually to make sure you do it. As a result, it often takes 10 minutes between dispatches. Each train has 6 cars with 2 rows of 2, so the train seats a max of 24 riders. That gives you a max hourly capacity of roughly 144 guests, assuming the trains are fully loaded, but I can almost guarantee they will not. Groups are not paired together, so even if you're a single rider and there's a spot open elsewhere on the train, you will get your own row. This means there will be a lot of empty seats each cycle, further reducing the already poor throughput. Then due to overspeeding issues in warmer days, I've heard the park sometimes closes the back 1 or 2 cars. The train travels a bit slower with less weight. On my most recent visit, I suspect the park switched trains midday to mitigate this issue, rather than running the coaster at a lesser capacity. Some additional touring notes that will impact how you experience this coaster. This coaster, like many at Nagashima Spa Land, typically does not operate in the rain. I've seen some instances where the coaster stays open, but it's rare. The park is so conservative that they will close the queue if they see rain approaching, even if it has not yet reached the park. They do this in an attempt to avoid having to turn guests away already in line. I recommend avoiding this park on days with precipitation in the forecast if possible, just to avoid this issue. Then this park also closes queues early. This ensures the last train goes out before park close, so if the ride is an hour wait, the queue will close at least an hour before that. So how can you avoid a long wait? The best strategy is to head here immediately at park open. Since Hakugei is located in the back corner of the park, you should have minimal crowds here to start the day. I was able to ride this coaster 4 times in the first hour, which is a borderline miracle given the dispatch speeds. The other advantage to heading here early is that you can more easily influence your seat. Remember how the lockers are located towards the end of the queue? You can count how many people are on the stairs to the station, and you can strategically linger at the lockers if necessary. Remember, people from different groups will not be paired together, so you kind of have to guess how big each group is. You can still linger back later in the day when the ride gets busier, but there will be more people on the stairs, so it's more difficult to do this accurately. Fortunately, there is not a bad row in this coaster, but I did have a slight preference for the back. This offered the best airtime. I thought the front offered superior laterals though, so it's worth trying both if you're able to. If it's a quieter day, you can also return during the last hour. For us, Hakugei was just a 1 train wait at this point. This is risky though, because as I noted, the park will close the queue early. Even if this coaster was a walk-on like it was for us, they closed the queue 15 minutes before the park closed. The other way to avoid a long queue is to purchase a priority pass. These are only sold at a vending machine near the Ferris wheel. These cost 1,000 yen, or $7 per person per ride. These machines are cash only, same with the kiosks for this park's restaurants, so you need to plan accordingly how much cash you bring to this park. Depending on the time slot you book, you have 20 to 60 minutes to return to the ride. They only start selling them when the queue is greater than 30 minutes, but that occurs most days in the afternoon. Times can run out, especially as the late afternoon approaches, and the park will stop selling them when the queue closes. Priority passes skip the switchbacks and bring you directly to the lockers, so you often board in 1 or 2 trains. Once you finally dispatch, you have one of those quirky pre-lift sections that RMC loves so much, but this offers way better airtime than usual. You start by slightly turning left over the queue. Then, there's a very sharp dip. This offers a legit pop of ejector airtime in the back. Then, there are 3 consecutive bunny humps. The first is straight. This offers a solid burst for those in front, an okay floater for everyone else. The second is banked outwards towards a tree, which is a fun near miss. Then it offers another decent pop of airtime in front. Those further back get some light laterals instead. Then the third bunny hump offers weak negative Gs for all. For a pre-lift section, this is fantastic. You then head up the lift, momentarily slamming to a stop as the anti-rollbacks catch the train. It is a really awkward way to engage the chain, but this coaster has been doing it for years. You then climb the lift. This offers amazing views. To your right, you have the river. To the left, you have the rest of the park and this coaster's beautiful layout. It certainly builds anticipation for what's to come. Once at the top, you have a small dip. This builds a little speed. This is followed by an unbanked leftward turn, so you actually get some laterals here. It is also your last chance to take in the view before the ride goes berserk. Then comes the main plunge, which reminds me of the one Outlaw Run at Silver Dollar City or Wildfire Colmartin. There's a little bump over the crest, which means you're absolutely thrown over the drop. You get great sustained ejector in those back cars. It feels stronger than the usual RMC drop, and it lasts longer due to the added height. Even those in front get some float on this near vertical drop. The pullout offers some positive Gs, but don't get used to it because that's not what this ride is about. It also allows you to feel this ride's speed and fall. Then you zip over a large double up. Both humps offer powerful sustained ejector no matter where you're sitting. I was surprised the negative Gs were so consistent across the train. Typically, double ups hit hardest in the front car. The exit subtly banks right, which offers a sudden lateral jolt as you crest the apex. Then comes my favorite element on the ride, the outer banked wave turn. This reminds me of the high five on the blue side Twisted Colossus at Six Flags Magic Mountain, except it's even wilder here. You get the strongest airtime of the ride. It is some excellent ejector, and it is sustained too. The next element is a double down, and once again, I will compare it to something on Twisted Colossus. This feels like the double down on the green side, complete with a funky profiling. The entry offers laterals for all. They are okay in the back, but they're much better in the front because you're pushed through the turn. Then both dips offer airtime for all. The first offers floater in the front half of the train. In the back rows, you get a nice ejector pop. Everyone gets a similarly good burst of ejector on the second dip, regardless of where you're sitting. Next is the first of 3 inversions, and my favorite of the trio, the 0G stall. This is perfectly engineered, so you're levitating in midair while inverted. Then as a bonus, the profiling in and out of the element offers some solid laterals. You experience them on the entry in the front, and on the exit in the back. This leads to a turnaround comprised of 2 separate wave turns. Both offer decent ejector, but the first is the better of the two because it's paired with some surprise laterals. They're good throughout the train, but they're extra potent in the front. You're essentially thrown diagonally because the negative Gs and laterals hit simultaneously. This leads to the second inversion, a 0G roll. This is whippy, particularly in the front because once again you're pushed into it. you are pinned sideways. Yet this element still offers nice float despite the rapid rotation. This is followed by a big camelback. The negative G's are not as strong as the ride's other elements in terms of magnitude, but you still get solid ejector here. And it is more sustained than most other hills, so it ends up being a great element that fits in well. Next is this banked dip down to the left. This is an intense maneuver. I didn't expect much of it going in, but it offers a very wild and abrupt burst of laterals. You are forcibly thrown sideways. I cannot think of another RMC off the top of my head that has an element quite like this. This is followed by the lone below average element on the ride, an overbanked turn. It just doesn't do anything. No airtime, laterals, nor G's. It exists merely to change your direction, but it's over fast, so it doesn't disrupt the pacing. Next is a big bunny hill. This returns to glory, offering good and semi-sustained ejector airtime. This is followed by a twist and shout. This banks you left before rapidly snapping you right. The apex offers a strong ejector pop in front with laterals simultaneously. You lose the laterals further back in the train, but the airtime is more sustained. It is great sustained flijector in that back car, which is really cool when you're on your side. Then comes the final inversion, another 0G roll. This is the element that varied the most as the ride warmed up. Earlier in the day, it was super floaty. By the afternoon, the train hauled through this, treating everyone to some wild laterals. It reminds me of the 0G roll on the blue side of Twisted Colossus. Then there's one more bunny hill, which again offers a nice burst of ejector. And then you jump up and right into the brakes. In front, you get an okay bit of airtime with some laterals. You lose the airtime further back, but you at least get some weak laterals. You then smoothly decelerate and return to the station, ending the experience. As you'd expect, this coaster is immaculately smooth. The train seamlessly and fluidly navigates the layout without any bumps, which is par for the course for most RMCs. Then this coaster is a masterclass in pacing and sequencing. It is one excellent element after another, and I like how there's good variety. Quite a few RMCs will spam the same element over and over again. Hakugei doesn't really do this. Outside the back-to-back wave turns, the ride alternates between a straight airtime hill, an off-axis hill, or an inversion. So what would I rate Hakugei? This easily earns a perfect 10 out of 10. This is a top-notch roller coaster and the best ride in all of Japan. It is everything I wanted. It is smooth, fast, and long. The ride offers ejector airtime in droves, oftentimes while you're on your side. This is paired with 3 incredible inversions. And unlike a lot of other RMCs, this one mixes in a lot of laterals. The only thing this coaster is missing is heavy positive G's, but it does everything else so well, particularly the negative G's, that I can look past that. How does this compare to the other RMCs? This is definitely one of their best coasters. Of the steel hybrids, I think this is my second favorite. The only one I prefer is Steel Vengeance. I think Iron Gwazi and Zadra are more intense, but I prefer Hakugei for the superior length. Then it has some large elements at the start that Untamed is missing. This is a world-class coaster that alone makes Nagashima Spa Land worth visiting. But don't forget, you also have a dozen other coasters, including the world's longest coaster in Steel Dragon 2000. These 2 coasters form what may be the best top 2 rides of any amusement park out there. Those are my thoughts on Hakugei and Nagashima Spa Land. What are your thoughts on this coaster? Do you agree it's the best ride in Japan? Let me know down in the comments. If you enjoyed this review, I would appreciate it if you gave this video a like, and you consider subscribing, because there'll be a lot more roller coaster and amusement park videos here at Canopy Coaster. Thanks for watching.